Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Tundu, thank God it's Friday.
Yay.
Now, let's start with these day newspapers. Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story, federal government promises to back Okonjo-Iweala to victory in contest for WTO Director General. Nigeria's candidate confident to win has support of most members, insists organization. Yes, US again, playing the spoiler. Thank God the United States don't have veto power in this matter. If shove comes to push, members will vote. Hopefully, our own Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala will carry the day. But there is work to be done. Ruben, you said so much about that by the president, Nigeria's president. We don't need to rest on our oars at this time. We need to continue the engagement with other countries that are backing our candidates right now. But we'll see how that pans out. Joy delayed, but certainly we hope they cannot deny Nigerians the joy of the moment when it comes to that point. November 9 is the date. We keep our fingers crossed. We move over to other stories in other newspapers. The Vanguard newspaper knocks as presidency false amnesty on Lekki shootings. Civil society organization hit government over rejection of Amnesty International report. Presidency rejects Amnesty International report on Lekki shooting, says body doesn't run Nigeria. Says group lacks all the facts, doesn't know beyond what it is told. Soldiers fired blank bullets at Lekki protesters, says ex-army spokesman. That story emanated from this program yesterday. Now, and that is the lead story of the New Telegraph. Soldiers fired blank bullets at Lekki NSAS protesters. Presidency false Amnesty International says anarchy preceded shootings. Buhari orders ministers to submit protest report. Southeast governors, leaders to protect non-indigenous. Yes, this lead story emanating from the interview we had yesterday with Colonel Usman, who was on this program yesterday, former army spokesman.
Brigadier General.
Oh, Brigadier General. And Ruben, you had a torrid time with him, defining what blank bullet can do. While he said it will simply give you pigmentation of the skin. Quite a good way to play it down. But we saw people bleeding, and you saw holes in some people's skin. I don't know whether that can be defined as pigmentation of the skin, but that is what he says. I wish that statement was coming from the army itself, a serving officer who has the mandate to speak on what happened. But again, the military, they have this sense of camaraderie. So I'm not surprised that ex-spokesman speaking in favor of the military about what happened at the Lekki toll gate. Now, the Punch newspaper, police killings. Inspector General begins command store. Force admits call morale low. 28 officers killed in Lagos, Abia, Rivers, Oyo, Anambra, 4 states in 1 week. We won't return to duty, respond to distress calls, aggrieved policemen threatened. Our hearts and sympathy again go to the families of policemen who were cut down in this crisis. No life should be lost. Every life is valuable, whether life of policeman or life of protesters. And I think there's the need to really up the morale of policemen. Many are yet to return to work. In fact, they are even finding it difficult to summon the courage. Families are also not even wanting their relatives who are policemen to hit the streets to carry out their duty right now. Now, Daily Trust newspaper, Lekki shootings, untold story of survivors, how we were shot, victims, LASUT, that's the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, confirms treating gunshot wounds. We did not kill anyone, Army. Activists forced Lagos government soldiers' claim. Of course, if you read this story, the sources confirm that the victims were treated for gunshot wounds. Of course, since the incident, there has not been an accurate data on the number of casualties recorded that night. That is what a thorough investigation should, of course, reveal what actually happened on that day, who gave order to use bullet, whether blank or live, or whatever categorization of bullet that was used. There's need for proper and thorough investigation. The leadership newspaper, Leadership Friday, is called. Ider Malud, governors, JNI, ACF rally youth for peace. Buni calls for forgiveness, tolerance. We must ensure religious tribal differences, Bala Mohammed. Protest looting, asking alien to Prophet Muhammad teachings, according to Abdul Razak. Let's shun actions that are inimical to Nigeria's growth. Now, the Daily Times newspaper with a different story altogether. Federal government begins distribution of free meters, targets 30 million consumers nationwide. Yes, the first phase of this distribution will start in Lagos, Kano, and Kaduna. Ikeja Electric Distribution Company, as well as Eco Electric Distribution Company, will be part of this distribution. 1 million free meters. Free is the underlying word. So I hope the discos will not start selling these meters, because the era of estimated billing has to come to an end, so that if you don't perform, you don't get paid. A situation where the discos collect money, funds for services not rendered. That is the era of estimated billing. It's not acceptable, it's not good enough. So over the next 18 months, about 6 million meters will be delivered, according to the federal government promise. I hope they will keep to that promise. The Guardian newspaper, Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper, banks in panic, update of servers. Banks in panic update of servers. Current cyber laws can't help financial system. Ministers admit government agencies exposed. Experts want federal government to scale up cybersecurity architecture. Call for personnel training, more awareness. I think we have a lot of job to do in terms of cybersecurity. That is an area the federal government need to also pay attention to, for industries, for banks, as well as government facilities, to prevent hackers from getting into government systems, as well as systems of corporate organizations. Daily Sun, a very sad one. Tragic end for school children. 21 killed in Enugu Road accident. Another crash claimed to in Ekiti. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, IPPIS. Some professors paid 8,000 naira in some months. ASUU president, as meeting with federal government ends in deadlock again. Now, the back and forth between the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian universities, as well as the federal government, is still on. The children, the students I've been at home for close to 8 months now and counting, and there's no end in sight, no resolution of the matter between the ASUU and the federal government. I hope reason will prevail on both sides so that Nigerian students can return to their campuses and study. Graduates, many who could have graduated some months ago, are still not sure of when they will graduate from the universities. 2021 certainly should be the year. Hopefully, if that matter can be resolved now. Whatever the issue holding both parties, I think reason should prevail on both sides. Now, the foreign newspapers, the UK papers, the crisis in Labour Party is dominating the newspapers in the UK. The Guardian newspaper, Labour plunged into crisis after Corbyn suspended. Jeremy Corbyn, the erstwhile Labour leader, has been suspended. Of course, party acts against former leader over response to anti-Semitism report. The Daily Telegraph, reporting the same story, shaming of Corbyn sparks Labour civil war. Former leader challenges Starmer after suspension over anti-Semitism. While the Independent newspaper, also of the UK, Labour's Day of Shame. Starmer suspend Corbyn and reignite civil war. Party's response to anti-Semitism found to be unlawful. Leader apologizes to Jewish community for failings, but the fact is that Jeremy Corbyn has vowed to fight his suspension from the Labour Party after, of course, what looked like a dramatic day. Yes. Now, in the US, the Wall Street Journal, a story those who don't want Trump to win will not like. US growth erases much of slide. Quarterly GDP recoups about 2/3 of the contraction from earlier in the pandemic. The US economy grew at a record pace in the third quarter, increasing by 7.4% over prior and at a 33% annual rate, thus recovering about 2/3 of the ground it lost in the early days of the pandemic when there was this restriction. Now, that should be good news to Donald Trump. His messaging in the last few days to the November 3 election will be about the economy, while others will be talking, according to him, COVID.
He's trying to make COVID a non-issue. But
COVID remains an issue.
But he wants to make it a non-issue. As far as he's concerned,
the handling of the COVID pandemic is a major issue, and former Vice President Joe Biden is sitting tight on that issue.
So this is the thing. So he's trying to make it a non-issue because his handling of it hasn't been the best, and just trying to sweep it under the carpet and pretend it's over and everybody can move on. So this is actually a really good piece of news for him in the days leading up to the election, bearing in mind that a lot of Republicans don't actually go out and vote until election day. So this is great for Donald Trump. We'll see. It's really difficult to unseat an incumbent. We'll see if Joe Biden manages to do that. But I wanted to talk about Jeremy Corbyn. What on earth was he thinking? Why did he have to make any kind of comment at all? I don't understand it, how he went and got himself suspended. Because his fall from grace is almost complete. In every election, you have to have winners and losers. But he didn't lose the last general election. He was annihilated at the polls and now getting suspended. And he could get expelled if he continues to challenge the reports or try to minimize the anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Why couldn't he either be quiet or just hold his hands up to it and say, oh, this is really bad, we need to do better? Just some kind of platitude like that. Trying to question that kind of report was, I don't think Starmer had any choice but to suspend him, frankly.
But for me, I'd say, great one, Jeremy Corbyn was suspended, but when we look at the makeup of the Labour Party, Starmer should be very careful because he treads on dangerous line. What has kept Jeremy Corbyn in all this while was the strong association he had with groups like Unite, that are workers' group, with Len McCloskey and the other guys. And those are people that have constantly delivered for Jeremy Corbyn. When the report came out, Jeremy Corbyn pushed it away. But really, when you look at the evidence of that report, there were actually very strong cases of anti-Semitism
Of
in
course
the
there
Labour
were.
Party.
Yes.
And it's quite very shocking because when you look at the antecedents of the Labour Party, just before Jeremy Corbyn came in, you had a heated contest between two Jewish men, Ed and David Miliband, in the Labour Party. So when you now have that series of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, it's quite very shocking. And Jeremy Corbyn didn't do a good job. But Sir Keir Starmer is coming, to sanitize the party. But a lot of people, too, are looking at him and say, tread with caution, because these guys, the hardliners with Jeremy, the Corbynistas, as they are called, they are there, you can't push them away. I quickly want to talk about banks and cybersecurity. There was a cybersecurity conference yesterday held in Abuja that Arise TV covered. I was really excited about those conversations. But it's time for us to start looking inwardly into cybersecurity in this country and across governmental agencies, because it's really very important. Our cybersecurity threshold is quite very low, and repeatedly we've suffered many cybersecurity hacks. Banks have lost a lot of money. More importantly, government organizations have lost a lot of money as regards this, and it is something we should look into. And Nigeria as a country needs to have a cybersecurity roadmap. We don't even have very viable cybersecurity laws. These are conversations we should have. I remember then...
We have a cybercrime law.
That Funke Okweke...
We do.
Cybersecurity.
But
now,
cybersecurity, I think,
But I've been facetious. Our cybercrime law is more used to hound social media users.
So I remember Funke Okweke of Main One did start the conversation on having, a viable cybersecurity architecture and a framework we can use. But I don't know how far that one is going.
First, on the Labour Party, what is happening is a battle for the soul of the Labour Party. And I think whatever embarrassment Jeremy Corbyn is receiving, he's paying the price for his own, should I use the word stubbornness and failure to take advice.
Yes, I think that is...
Now, the deputy leader of the party advised him to apologize, but he refused. He kept saying that the report by the Equality and Human Rights Commission is overstated for political reasons. And what that commission is saying is that under his leadership, there were at least 3 cases of persons being discriminated against, being harassed just because they were Jews. So I agree with Tundu. He should just have kept quiet or apologize as he was advised. But the real problem, why I say it's a battle for the soul of the party, is the fact that the unions, his own supporters, and all of that are responding to Metro in London today has one headline that Corbyn has been Corbyned. They are saying no, it's not possible. He's not been given a fair hearing. And there are talks about a breakaway party coming out of Labour Party. I hope that will not happen. I hope that they will resolve the crisis as quickly as possible. But I do not think that apart from those his supporters, that he will get a lot of sympathy within the community.
He won't.
Now, secondly, there is the point about the Inspector General of Police, which is one of the headlines of the papers.
Yes, trying to raise the morale of policemen.
Embarking on a tour of police formations, beginning from Abuja today. I think that is important, because as we have said on this program, many policemen are depressed. Many of their stations destroyed, 29 in Lagos alone, 28 policemen killed in 9 states of the Federation. Many have become orphans just because they are related to policemen. So it's good to see the Inspector General of Police going around and trying to restore confidence. However, the best way to restore confidence and trust is to ensure that these policemen, their welfare is addressed, which is one of the major issues in the NSAS protest, long term.